Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hyperconscious Podcast is proudly sponsored by our friend and mentor, David Meltzer of the Playbook Podcast. He was kind enough to join us on episode 144 and 135.
Folks, it has become Kevin and I's mission in life to help you realize that the life of your dreams is right on the other side of you becoming the greatest version of yourself. Let us help you do that.
I rarely do these things twice in such a short amount of time, but you guys impress me. I believe in people that provide value and of our service. You two guys are on your way to huge fulfillment, purpose, and profitability, and I look forward to helping you both.
We appreciate that more than you know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest Small Talks episode where Alan and I sat down in the new studio, Jack, and talked about change. Today, for episode number 217, we are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on how to learn from failure.
So before we jump into this episode, I want you to go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com.
Right? Why?
Click on join.
Why?
Hashtag Hyperconscious Nation.
Why?
The reason why to go there is because you want to be around a community of like-minded, supportive individuals who put wind into your sails and do not take wind out of your sails.
Also, if Alan or myself says something that inspires you, motivates you, or breaks something loose,
Most likely me.
most likely Alan, and you're on the Instagram machine, as they say, feel free to screenshot and share that on your story and tag Alan and myself. We will share it on ours, and we can become best buds.
It's Batman.
Batman. Batman's just a man. Superman is not human.
True.
I want to be Hulk, though.
You want to be the Hulk. All right, so first question for Kevin. For those people not on YouTube, they have no idea why we said Batman.
Or why
I have a
made
shaker cup that I'm
noise.
drinking out of. Right. That has Batman on it.
I flexed.
All right, back on the rails.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
This is going off the rails.
You and I just gave a speech at Michael Gorman's organization.
We did.
The Movement Family.
We did,
For those who don't know Michael, he's an incredible man, and you can learn more about him on episode number 190.
Strong work.
Ah, not bad. But that said, the speech was super challenging for us.
Yes.
And we left unsure about our performance, to say the least.
Yeah.
Okay, for the listeners, can you please elaborate on what that experience was like for you personally, why we chose to do this episode on how to learn from failure, and what you learned from it?
Yeah, so Alan and I've never spoken to children before, ever. I mean, I have, like, during baseball camps I did, but it wasn't in that setting. So I believe these children some of them were like high-risk teens, and they're living in an area where guns are prominent, drugs are prominent, violence is prominent, gangs are prominent, broken homes are prominent. All of those things are prominent.
Right.
And Alan and myself rolled in there all dressed to the nines
Yeah.
with our hair did and Calvin Klein shoes on. And I think that it was hard because I didn't know how to relate to the children.
Right.
And that's something that I pride myself on, usually being able to relate to people. But usually, and this is going to sound not bad, but usually I'm the guy who has the story of the hardship.
Right.
And in that room, I wasn't the guy who, like...
It was interesting, right?
Most of those kids are probably going through that every day.
I know.
And here I am talking about, well, my childhood was rough, and I made it through, like, suicidal thoughts. They might be going through that today, right now, as we're recording this episode.
I know.
They might be dealing with that. So Alan and I weren't prepared for that necessarily. And when we left, we literally laughed the whole ride home because of how bad we thought we did.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. Going back to getting the snow globe shooketh, I was like, am I even a speaker? Like, should I even be doing this? Do I even belong on stage? And I started questioning everything. So we came back here. Alan said, yo, we should go watch that right now and see how bad it really is. And we both said, all right, let's use this as a fail-forward moment, and let's go face failure here and see what happens.
Let's go learn from it.
And then we decided doing an episode on it. Like, we want to bring you behind the curtain on the behind the scenes of what's happening. Like, this is as real as it gets.
I think one of the distinctions that we made as well is that your speech can only be as good as your topic is relevant to the audience.
Yeah.
That was one of the big takeaways.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that you answered all 3 parts of the question, because I've had people reach out and say, Alan, I don't like your 2-part questions.
You
and I'm
asked 3 parts?
Oh, yeah.
On that one question?
I hammered the big questions, man.
Wait.
Yeah. Okay, so the first part was, what was that experience like for you? You did that. Great job. Great job.
1 out of 3.
Why did we choose to do this episode?
2 out of 3.
Two out of 3. Last one was, what did you learn from it?
I learned from it that, and we'll get into this, when you're in the room, you're probably not very accurate with how you think things went.
Yes.
That was my biggest takeaway.
Right.
And we'll talk about that.
Because we watched it, and it was way better than we thought.
Far better than we thought it was.
And just shout out again, thank you, Michael, for having us out, but also everyone in the room really seemed to resonate.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, our perception and our standards versus others.
And also, we went from Your World Within Live, where people literally flew in to see us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if these children even want to be here. So it's just a fine line of, I need to know more, and I need to do better research on who's going to be there and what they're going through.
Right.
I should have done that at the beginning. What are you going through? What are you going through? You know, I could have done better at that.
And we will next time.
For sure.
For sure. Okay, here we go. Scratching the surface on how to learn from failure.
Some would say.
Okay, we always say fail forward.
Some would say.
On the ride home last night, alone in my car, I legitimately had a moment of excitement about that quote-unquote fail forward moment, because I knew we were about to learn so much, which I believe we did.
Yes.
Question for Kevin. For the listeners, what's the mental framework they should use to think about failure? And how did you learn how to embody that philosophy yourself?
Oh, wow. All right, so for a long time, I didn't believe in failure. I thought if I failed, it made me a bad person. I thought if I failed, it meant I couldn't continue. I thought if I failed, it meant I wasn't good at something. And if you're winning at everything you're doing, you're not doing enough stuff.
Right.
I think it's that plain and simple.
Did you feel like, so last night you had the old Kevin feels of
Yeah, man.
So what is that like?
It gets into your identity. It's like, maybe you got lucky on stage at Your World Within. Maybe you got lucky at Confident Women's, and this is like what should have happened. You got lucky the other 2 times. Remember when I told you that I used to think I got lucky when I passed certain tests?
Right.
That's kind of what it feels like when you... The problem is, like, with me, sometimes failures creep into my identity. And when they do, I need to prove to myself... I had a very important call today. And before the call, I said to myself, last night went better than you thought. You're not, like... You're capable of what you're about to do. Like, don't let that shit creep in. Mm-hmm. And I didn't. I had a great call. But that's practice for me. That's practice. I've never... Last night I said, like, dude, it usually goes better than I think it goes, even when I leave the room. When I left the room last night, I was like, that went worse than I thought it was going to.
Right.
Luckily, we watched the tape, and we realized that it wasn't nearly as bad as we thought. And
I know.
We actually added a lot of value, and people actually enjoyed what we said. So if we didn't assume we were going to watch it, it was going to be painful, and it was going to be a failure, we wouldn't have learned any of that.
Right.
Any of that.
That's how it normally goes for me.
Yeah, I know.
So that was totally par for the course.
Right.
And I'm really happy. After we watched it last night, I was like, that is way better than I thought. I thought I did a great job in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and
I do too.
The thing that's funny is you learn not only what you're bad at, but you learn what you are good at. So even when you did horrible, quote unquote, in your own standards, you still did something well.
Right.
And that's the thing that is your training. Like, even though it went poorly, you still did something well. Like, I think that's huge.
Well, I think the most important thing about this example is the episode is called How to Learn from Failure. Alan and I thought that was a failure. If we didn't watch the tape, this episode would be totally different.
Right.
We would be saying, like, this would be episode 217, why we're not public speakers anymore. Because we would have thought we sucked.
Why we're not public speakers
We would have thought we
anymore.
sucked.
Right.
So instead of running from feedback, and this is something we preach, and this is why I love talking about this stuff, because we don't only preach it, we're living it. Because we know the benefits of it, and that's why we want to showcase it for you guys.
Right.
We literally came in this room, set up the couch, and said, all right, man, all right, let's go. Like Alan put his hood on his head, what he does when we watch painful things.
I went and gotten comfies.
Yeah.
I thought about getting you comfies too, and I was like, nah.
No dice.
No.
But it
I only had one other pair of
we
sweatpants
took a
that
lot
probably
of
wouldn't fit you.
we took a lot of wins from what we thought was going to be a failure. If we didn't do that, today would be worse.
What if we avoided watching it?
We would have thought
Right.
we were bad.
I know.
Forever.
Yeah. Right.
Forever.
Crazy. Until we did it again.
Yeah, if
Get
we
back
did it
in the
again.
ring. Yeah.
If we did it again.
For me, I'm always getting back in the ring.
I know.
But I realized that not everyone's like that. Okay. Next question.
Next question.
Scratching the surface on how to learn from failure.
Sure.
Some would say.
Someone say.
We always say every rep is a report card.
Oh, yeah.
Last night was your third speech ever. I don't know if you know this, but Kevin is a damn near 3-speech,
Yeah.
public
of a,
speaker.
Somewhat of a big deal.
Many mahogany floors and leather-bound books. Okay, last night was your third speech ever, and you got one hell of a report card.
Yeah.
Okay, question for Kevin. For the listeners, can you please describe 3 specific A's and 3 specific F's?
Wow, Jesus.
And why? This is a 6-part
God,
question.
I need like a
know.
whiteboard.
Hey, you wanted, tough questions.
An A. What did I do well with an A? I think I got the audience involved really well.
Nice.
We did push-ups at
Yeah.
one point.
Oh, yeah.
I pulled people up. One of the kids wanted to be a motivational speaker. I said, come up here and preach some truth. I think I did that very well.
And you asked him to send you his first speech.
Yes.
Promise me you'll send me your first speech.
Yes.
I think that was really cool.
So
Right.
bringing audience members up.
Right.
But I think also connecting with those people. I think I connected with several people in that room to the point where they won't forget me, which isn't the goal. The goal is for them to think about that day and say like, oh, that kid believed in me or that guy believed in me. I can believe in myself.
Right.
So that's 2. Number 3, what else did I do?
The A's are tough,
What
but
else
you got to
did I
look at
do
them.
well?
Especially when you feel like a failure, you got to look at the A's.
That's when you have to look at the A's the
especially if
most.
you're on your end to drive to 5.
Right.
Yeah.
What else did I do well?
See, this means he didn't look at the A's well.
It's not that I didn't look at them well. It's just I know I could have done better. I have high standards.
Right.
I have high standards. Just because I didn't do as bad as I think doesn't mean I'm happy with my performance. You know what I mean? I got us there. My logistics were on point.
Yeah,
I got us there early. No, I think we had a really good, efficient setup. We set everything up in 15 minutes.
Nice.
Like, that was good.
Okay.
So those are my 3 A's.
Nice. Okay. F's.
F,
3.
know the room better, 100%.
You mean in terms of the audience?
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 2, study more and have a better idea of what you're going to talk about.
Right.
I straight up thought it was going to be easier than it was. Straight up.
Right.
And I got humbled. And that's a rare place for me because I usually over-prepare and usually I over-deliver. This, I under-prepared and I under-delivered, right? And this is mostly in our standards. We got a lot of good feedback. They invited us back.
I
It's
know.
not-
Yeah, right.
I know we're making it seem like we burned the place down. That's not what happened.
One
But
of the
in-
guys asked us if we could come back every
Right,
month.
right.
So
and we talked to
right.
Michael. Michael reached out today. So
Yeah, Mike
so-
thinks we did great. So thank you, Mike, for that.
yeah. So it's not that we did terrible, but I own. Looking back, it's like no wonder why you feel like you did. You weren't prepared. Of course, you don't deserve to feel good about it. Like it's your own fault. That's how I feel about it. And then another F. Be funnier. Be funnier. I feel like I didn't know how to relate to the kids, so I tried to like be something I wasn't more than I usually do. Like usually I'll fall back on my character, and I didn't know if they cared about my character, so I didn't know. I had no idea.
Right.
Like I got my snow globe shook up there, and then I was trying to figure out like, oh no, what do I do?
What do I do?
What do I do?
So the second part of the question was why?
Why what, man?
3 specific A's, 3 specific F's, and why? Why did you choose those?
So I chose the first 2. So pulling people up or getting interacting with the crowd. Number 1 and 2 are the same because I want to impact somebody on a deep level,
Right.
and I think that did it.
Right.
The logistics, I got us there on time. That's a good enough why for me. Knowing the crowd because I could have impacted more people if I knew exactly what people were going through.
Right.
Study more because I would have been more confident. And I think I would have been. It all goes back to my why of impacting people.
I know.
Right. And then
Which is why I asked.
the third failure, be not funnier because that's a cop out. It's not be funnier. It's don't showboat, kind of, because that's kind of what I was trying to show my value through what I thought they wanted.
Did you know I wake up at 4:30
I wake up
in the
at
morning?
4:30 a.m. And if you don't, you are screwing up.
Yeah, right.
I don't go to the beach. I don't have fun.
Right. That's fucking hilarious. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. This is fun for
great.
me.
I love talking about this.
All right. Scratching the surface on how to learn from failure.
Some would say.
Okay. I have a dear friend and client who started questioning her macro due to her fear of failure in the micro. This is a big thing.
Okay.
She was so scared to fail one class that she started questioning her entire dream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think you've been there too, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Wren rep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, question for Kevin. For her and for any of the listeners who might be in a similar position, what would you say to help her through that? And how can she make sure, from your perspective, not to allow her fear of a short-term failure to affect her long-term dreams?
Wow. Your long-term dreams are basically a culmination of short-term failures and course corrections along the way. You're going to fail. If you just assume you're going to fail and you don't try, not only will you fail by default, but you won't get any of the feedback. And if you're on the lower end of Drive to 5 and things usually go better than you expect, you'll never learn that. You'll just assume you suck.
Right.
And you'll assume you're a failure, and that will definitely creep into your identity. That will definitely creep into your identity. 100%. So you have to, guys, every single day, no matter what you're doing, you're taking a risk at failing. Like, I'm risking failure in front of this microphone right now. I could have a terrible episode and not know what to say. You and I have done that 216 times. Every coaching call, there's a chance I fail and I don't add the value I want. Every time I'm with my girlfriend, there's a chance I fail and I don't bring her the value and I don't make her feel loved and supported every single day.
Right.
So you either risk failure or you live in a cave for your entire life.
Did you feel scared to get back in the podcast ring after that speech?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's a new studio and I'm running on very limited sleep.
Right.
It's
and
not,
I'm hammering you with tough
yeah.
questions.
I mean, it's par for the course. You and I have failed so much, that it's like, before I was afraid to fail because I thought other people would see it. Now I realize that my standards are usually higher than most people, and I just don't want to accept failure for myself.
Right.
I know I'm capable of more, so when I fail, it's like, that's your own fault. It's your own fault.
Right.
And I don't expect everybody to be that hardcore, and I wasn't either.
But that's the feedback, right? So let's say this episode didn't go well because you can't remember 6 things or whatever. You'd say, oh, okay, time to get more sleep.
Right.
I should get more sleep.
Right.
Like today, I told you I punched my bureau. Slightly. Softly. But I got frustrated because I slept in because we were up late last night, and I didn't. So these questions I think are really great.
I do too.
But that's because I had to basically ask Kevin to spend an extra hour to give me an extra hour to prep because I let other distractions stop me from doing the most important work. So if you're out there right now and you're frustrated with micro failures, there is no other way to grow. Period. End of story. Wanted to bring that.
What's the other option?
Stop trying.
Right.
And don't achieve
and
your
then
dreams.
okay, so let's say, for example, this person said, all right, I'm afraid I'm going to fail this class. I think I'm just going to leave this dream behind. Okay, cool. Then find something else. What happens when you feel like you're going to fail something there? Do you just go, like, you're
Stop
just going to
again.
keep switching things?
The thing that's interesting is I don't think she even knew that she was thinking that way. So I got an audio message from her, and she said, I got 100 on it. And I was like, hell yeah, you thought you were going to fail that? And she said, in hindsight, I think I was allowing my fear of failure to cloud my dreams. And this is kind of my paraphrasing,
Right,
obviously.
right.
But, like, in my head, I'm like, you didn't even know that until now. So, like, how does she...
Right.
Like, I tried to tell her that before, but it's like, I don't even think she knew that until after she won on the micro.
Yeah.
That's like a really hard one. I don't even know how to answer that, straight up.
Yeah. I don't know. You just have to have a little bit of belief. And you have to understand that if I do fail, it's not the end of the road. I'm going to learn from it.
For her, it would be a 6 months
So what?
time period to where she couldn't take that class
So
again.
what?
Exactly.
How
That's what
bad
I
do you
would say.
how bad do you
How
want
bad
it?
do you want it? Right.
If
exactly.
fine, then what you would do is fail, and then you would use every ounce of your being, your motivation, your inspiration, your habits to make sure you pass the next time.
Right.
At least you'd know what the questions are. You'd be better off doing it the second time.
100%.
And you're not a failure.
No,
you're
no.
not a failure because you failed. You're a failure when you quit trying.
Exactly.
And maybe if you realize it's not for you, then fine.
Right.
Fine.
I asked her, I said, is this something you no longer want? That's the problem, though. it was really fear talking.
Right.
She was questioning whether or not she wanted that dream anymore,
Right,
and it's
yeah.
like,
It's tough.
right?
It's tough.
And now all of a sudden that she passed, it's like, oh, I really want the dream. See, careful,
Right.
because you thought before that you didn't want the dream anymore.
But
it's not do I want to? It's do I want to swing or can I hit the ball? If you're not sure if you can hit the ball, you got to try.
Well, she has to now. What she has to do moving forward is lock that into her consciousness and say,
Right.
every other time I thought I was going to fail, I didn't do it.
Right.
Now I regret the fact that I didn't do it. This time I thought I was going to fail, and I did perfect, literally
100.
perfect.
Right. Crazy.
I have
right?
to put that into my identity. That, like, if you had a flashcard on your side that came with instructions that you could look at, right? You can pull it out.
Okay.
It would say where you are on the drive to 5 and how that reacts in certain situations. It would literally say, you're going to do better than you think, try anyway. And then you put the flashcard back.
Well, here's my follow-up question. What if you don't? Like, you normally do better than you think. But last night was not the case. You
Right.
were on my end. You
Then-
went into it thinking it would go well.
Yeah. And you go back to the drawing board. Why didn't it go well?
Right.
Because I didn't prepare. If you don't study for a test and you expect to fail, if you're afraid of failing a test and you don't study, you will fail, and then you'll think you're stupid. When that's not the case.
You just didn't study.
You just didn't study.
Right.
Like, maybe you would have got a 70 if you studied.
Right.
Okay, but still, it's still passing the test.
This is the perfect next question.
Go on.
Okay. That's the dramatic reading. My bad.
Imagine if you read it as a question.
Right. Scratching the surface on how to learn from failure.
Some would say episode 217.
Optimism versus pessimism. Many people in my life have considered me overly optimistic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And while that's definitely true at times, I know that optimism wins in the long run because it creates more attempts, which is more reps, which is more feedback, which is more mastery. Okay. Question for Kevin.
Question for Kevin. I'm him.
Yes. The problem with optimism is that it sometimes causes a lack of effective preparation. You've become far more optimistic over the past few years, I've noticed.
Yes.
For the listeners, how do you feel about your level of optimism regarding your future now compared to the past?
Oh, wow.
And how have you mitigated the downside?
This is going to be deep. I think one of the reasons I'm scared of planes is because for the first time in my life, I know if I died, I'd be leaving a lot on the table. I genuinely feel that way. I'm excited for life, and I've never been this excited for life. And I don't know where other people are on that. I don't know how, like, what is normal, what you're supposed to feel, but I'm genuinely, like, excited about all the opportunities, and I'm excited about what hasn't happened yet. There was a meme I saw that it was like, something to be excited about is some of the best days of your life haven't even happened yet. And, like, I feel like most of the best days of my life haven't happened yet.
Same.
And that's the first time I've ever felt that way.
Really?
So, yeah. Yeah, for
I've
sure.
had that my entire life.
Well, you're a lucky
No matter how dark the present was.
lucky man.
Yeah, the bright future. I tried to tell that to the kids yesterday. That was my main takeaway.
Right.
If you're not excited for your future, it's super simple. I just want to interrupt here. So,
Yeah.
if you have a vacation on Friday and it's Monday, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is all better.
Yeah.
Imagine if your whole life was like that.
Yeah.
That's
how
why
it-
you
yeah.
got to have dreams, even if they never fucking happen.
Fired up.
Dude, even if they never happen, you're still excited about them.
Yeah.
Optimism's everything. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
No, that was my point. My point is I just am I'm so much more excited for life. I have so much more belief in myself. Like, again, I had a tough business call today that 2 years ago I couldn't have done. A year ago I would have needed Alan or somebody to be with me. And it was like, I get nervous before I do everything, really. I'm never not nervous before I do something. Like, that's another thing I want people to realize. Like, I'm always nervous. I'm not really nervous before podcasts when it's just you and I, and I'm getting far less nervous when it comes to guests.
Not if I keep hammering these kinds of
Well,
questions.
no, but it's gonna. But it also in my mind, it's making me better.
Right. I know.
It's making me better. So I'm like, well, I want to be the best in the world at Q&As. Eventually, this is helping.
Right.
What was his question? How do I balance?
Second part of the question.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's dramatic reading.
No, you're good.
Remember
that again.
Well,
Oh,
it's
there
because
it
I
is.
have front and back. Okay, for the listeners, how do you feel about the level of optimism regarding your future now compared to the past? You answered that.
Right.
And how have you mitigated the downside? So, for context, the reason I asked this question, last night I would argue that Kevin didn't prepare as much as he normally did. And I know why, because he's optimistic. He thought that was going to go really well.
For sure.
I sensed that in him, and it's funny that it's easy to see it in him, even though I'm like that all the time. How do you mitigate that in the future? Because you were obviously overly optimistic.
You make sure this memory hangs with you. There's a reason I do well more often than not. It's because I don't think I'm going to do well.
Right.
So I over-prepare and I over-deliver.
Right.
In this case, I thought I was going to do well by default, and I didn't prepare. There's no reason, even if you think you're going to do well, you shouldn't prepare for it. No matter what, I should prepare. I didn't think like I usually do. Man, we're going into a fight. I need to train as hard as I can for this fight.
Right.
I need to know my opponent.
You can't underestimate the opponent.
No.
Right.
And that's the downfall of many champions. They do.
I used an analogy, a fighting analogy last night. Normally, I guess in that setting, it was an unexpected ring.
Yeah.
So even if you know the opponent, do you know the ring
Right.
and the rules of the game?
Right.
The rules are always shifting. For the listeners, real quick, imagine if you're like really, really optimistic about your ability in math. And let's say you're going to go take a math test. As a kid, I was like this. I thought I got 100 on the SATs. I genuinely thought I got an 800, which is the best you can do. Dave Meltzer did.
Yes, he did.
Which I was blown away by still to this day. That's unbelievable. Not getting anything wrong is amazing. Imagine if you went into it thinking you're going to get a perfect score. Why would you study more?
Yeah.
If it's subconscious.
Right.
I'm going to win no matter... Like, if you have a default mindset that you're going to crush it, why would you over-prepare? So you have to balance, but yet you'll always take the test. Because you think you're going to win, so you'll always take the test.
Right.
So I think optimism wins in the long run, truly, because they try more, they fail forward more, and they get more lessons. But if you don't prepare ahead of time, you're most likely going to always have it go worse than it did. I prepared fairly well yesterday. I had 7 flashcards, and I'm actually, in hindsight, really happy with my performance.
But see, I had 6 flashcards, but that's not the way I prepare.
Right.
I prepare in the dark.
Right.
So when I get up there, it doesn't matter whether that's the thing. I just didn't prepare to the best of my ability. That's all.
Amen.
And I know that. That's my fail forward. Be better. There's nobody to blame but yourself.
Prepare better.
Prepare and be. Because the better I prepare, the better I'll be.
Fact.
We got to do the dramatic reading. We got out of time here.
Truth. All right, so this is super short, but here we go. So, you know Charlie Day?
Yeah, from It's Always Sunny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Funny.
gave a speech.
Funny guy.
Yeah. He gave a speech at Merrimack. So he graduated in 98 from Merrimack, and he did a commencement address, which is one of my dreams, and it's fire.
Okay.
And this is him, okay?
Okay. Let's hear it, Charlie.
You cannot let a fear of failure or a fear of comparison or a fear of judgment stop you from doing what's going to make you great. You cannot succeed without this risk of failure. You cannot have a voice without the risk of criticism. And you cannot love without the risk of loss. You must go out and you must take these risks. Do what's uncomfortable and scary and hard, but pays off in the long run. Be willing to fail. Let yourself fail. Fail in the way and the place where you would want to fail. Fail, pick yourself up, and fail again. Because without your struggle, what is your success anyway? You do not have to be fearless. Just don't let fear stop you.
I think that what a lot of people will say is like, facing your fear is not overcoming your fear. It's being afraid of it and doing it anyway.
Right.
I'm never going to love planes.
Nope.
Most likely.
No.
But I'm doing what I can to get through it. I'm going to be afraid most of the time, but that's fine. That's just the cost of doing business. Real quick story time.
Absolutely.
So this is something I talked about last night at the event. So what do I have, like 2 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
When I was playing baseball, I was very good at baseball. I was a very good baseball player. I made every all-star team I ever tried out for. I got scouted by various AAU travel teams. I had a couple colleges I could have gone and played for, but I decided against that. But when I was 13 years old, I was on the all-star team. We were playing under the lights at Quigley Field. I was up, I believe there was a runner on second and third, 2 outs, and it was the final inning. And I don't think if you asked anybody on the team, they would have rather had anybody up to bat but myself because I was a very good hitter. First pitch, didn't look. Straight down the middle. Didn't even look at it. Strike 1. Second pitch, right down the middle. Strike 2. Third pitch, before, I'm thinking to myself, do not strike out. Whatever you do, do not strike out. Struck out. And that was the first time that ever happened to me. I cried the entire ride home because I let my team down. I let myself down. Now, I let that creep into my identity for a long time. If I allowed that to stop me from playing baseball, I never would have gone on to play on travel teams, to play on all-star teams, to play on my high school team, to be the captain of the baseball team, to get recruited by colleges. None of that ever would have happened if I let that fear of failure and the fear of assuming it would repeat control my life. because I didn't, I ended up going and being the captain of my team, like with Matt and Ryan, right? Like none of that would have happened. I ended up cutting my hands and ended my baseball career. That's a whole nother episode. But the takeaway is like you are going to fail eventually, but what you do with the failure is what's going to determine what the next step in your life is.
100%.
And that's what I wanted to leave you guys with. You most likely will fail. If you don't try, you will fail by default. At least if you try and you fail, you'll get feedback, and feedback you can build off of.
Baseball is a perfect analogy for failure too. How many Hall of Fame hitter?
Yeah.
What's a percentage at that?
320.
How many percents?
You get every time you're up, you get one hit out of every 3.
You get 33%
Yes.
success rate,
Yep.
and you're in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
That's the perfect
Yeah.
way to think of failure.
Yeah.
Perfect.
They strike out hundreds of times a year.
Yeah.
You
Even
know,
though they're the best in the world.
Right. Yeah, I think it is. That is a great analogy.
Fine.
I think that we should go.
Yeah.
Okay.
10-second blip.
10-second blip.
Oh, speaking of blip.
Speaking
There
of
goes
blip,
the camera.
The camera just shut off. Quick 10-second blip. Yeah, basically what is oh my God, who wrote Harry Potter?
Oh,
What's her-
J.K. Rowling.
What did J.K. Rowling say about failure? Quickly.
She said, "You may never fail on the scale that I did, but some failure in life is inevitable, unless you live so cautiously that you never even try, in which case you fail by default."
I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up.
Perfect.
I think no matter what in life you're going to make, you're not going to succeed at everything, but it's worth trying, and you can get feedback and make changes. If you don't have any feedback, you can't make any changes.
Right.
And if you can't make any changes, you're probably going to continue failing.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to be.
You're never going to regret trying and failing. You're going to regret not trying.
I love it.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.